Me and my sibling a while ago sort of challenged each other to name every US state. Because there's a load, there's 50, isn't there?
Yeah, there's
It is 50.
50.
I'm not getting
Well,
that completely
actually,
wrong.
w-
I don't
well,
I don't often trouble myself with America, but there's 50.
eh, debatable.
And I could barely get like 10 or 20. But one thing we do know is all of the US states, they cover every single letter. Every letter is in at least one of them, except one. Which letter is it? Because it's not Z, because that's in Arizona.
Yeah.
Because there's all they use up most of the inconspicuous ones, but there's one that's not in any.
Q.
It is Q, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know that? Have you actually gone through them, or did you just know that?
I just went through them. I just looked.
Really, you just sort of went
I didn't.
in your head.
I
went through
didn't
all
see
of them.
any. Well, I've got Google Maps up, so
Have you?
yeah.
Well, that's because I can't name them all from memory. Because I know like the obvious ones like Texas and Ohio and Florida and California and New York and North Dakota and South Dakota.
One that
Mississippi.
everyone always forgets.
Yeah.
One that everyone always forgets is Montana.
I forgot about that.
Cause I always thought that it was like, I don't know, it just didn't really seem that important. But it's there, and it's a massive state if you look at it.
Whereabouts is
It's
it?
huge. It's in like it's in the north sort of east, no, north kind of west area, but not on the coast.
Oh,
Up
right.
near Canada.
Up near Canada. Is there like a proper wall between the USA and Canada, or is it just like a border?
There's not a wall. There's like some fences.
Oh, right. Because they
And
are quite
in
friendly,
areas-
aren't they? They're good mates.
Well, debatable.
Like
Let's
chums.
go frenemies.
Chums.
Frenemies.
When have they ever had any rivalry?
Listen, all right.
Has there been any at all? Because I always thought they'd been good chums.
Well, I was gonna suggest the America have a secret plan, like in their vault.
Don't know, I had one. Yeah.
They've got like a secret plan vault where they plan for all the eventualities and how the military would respond and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And one of the plans is how they would invade Canada if they needed to.
What? So how would they do it?
I don't know exactly, but I know it's something.
Dive in all guns blazing.
It's something to do with landing, I think, like paratroopers, like airdrops in all the major cities, and then just sort of, once you've got all the big bits, just sort of push through, and hopefully there's less resistance because you've already got people on the inside.
Right. I think I saw one, this video documentary about it, about what would happen if the USA were to go to war with the UK.
Yeah, they've got a plan for the UK as well. They've got a plan for everyone.
A plan for everyone. They're prepared. Do we have a plan, or do we just wing it?
I think we wing it, to be honest.
Because I don't remember. I mean, with the USA, they can go through all these documents and go, X country is declared war on us. Let me just go down into the vaults and get our files on what to do. Whereas we're just sort of,
yeah.
well, rely on America's files usually. We just going on to Canada. What do you think of Kanzuk?
Kanzuk.
I don't know if CANZ UK. I always think, because if you don't know, it's a proposed union between 4 very similar countries: Canada, Australia, New Zealand, UK. Just looking at the name, no actual details, but looking at the name, I think Australia's sort of drawn the short straw slightly, hasn't it? Because we've got CA, Canada, NZ, New Zealand, UK, well, UK. But Australia's sort of been asked to sort of share Canada's A, hasn't it?
Are they in? Are they in Kanzuk?
Yeah. Well, it's not a thing yet, but
No, but
they
is
would
it supposed to be?
It's not. As well, I mean,
No,
there's pros and cons, but if it were to happen, yeah, it's for Canada, Australia, New Zealand, UK.
That's a bit rude that they've got Australia, because they could have called it like, instead of Kanzuk, they could have called it like
Kanzuka.
Kanzuka, or
Kanazuk.
made it, or still made it Kanzuk, but just had two A's.
Kanzuk.
Kanzuk.
But yeah, I'm sure there'll be some sort of referendum on it. I mean, I don't know how that would work though. How they do it across 4 different countries.
So here's the thing that I don't understand about Kanzuk.
Yeah.
Is it supposed to be like a union, like the European Union, or is it supposed to be more of a United States Union?
It's somewhere in between, I think. I think it's nothing like the EU or the US, because it's a completely different thing by itself, but it can be sort of related to things like that.
So like more together than the EU, but not like literally the same country.
Yeah, and it would sort of push the one thing, or the 4 of us, up to like a sort of global super duper power. If it were to go ahead, I'm sure there'll be some vote on whether it's Kanzuk or Karnzuk. Get it? Because can't. Because can't.
I didn't even realise that. I thought you were talking about Australia. I thought you were still on Australia.
It would even be bigger than the US in terms of sort of everything.
Well, not. It depends how involved we were.
I mean, there'll be loads of people against it, but the thing is, I think it'll be different because all of the people who are like, isolate ourselves, leave every union we're in, misery island for us, and all that. I think it'll be a bit different when it's with nations that are very, very similar, because they came from us and we all share the same culture. Well, share a similar culture.
Yeah, I think the thing that people would bring up is it might become two things.
We are miles away from each other.
Well, that is one thing. It's a bit. I mean, they pretty much have someone in every corner of the globe.
It's a long distance relationship, but that could be an advantage.
It could, but the other thing is, people would probably the people who wouldn't want it to happen would probably bring up that it could become British Empire too.
Yeah, they would have to. I mean, the campaign for it would have to properly hammer in that it's all separate nations. I doubt anyone because the problem is, once all that starts being raised, British Empire 2 and so on, then the people from Canada, Australia and New Zealand will get a bit, well actually, just got away from all that jazz, not really interested. So gotta make sure it's properly hammered in. They're separate things. Anyway,
I think that whatever happens properly, I still think New Zealand will be the best country, even in Kanzuk.
I'm sure whatever happens, it'll, whether we do it or not, all of us will be going strong with flying colours. And speaking of colours, if you could, this is just a question for you. If humans, in general, there was some gas released into the environment that caused everyone to lose ability to see all colour except one. You'd have shades of grey and everything, but all colour except one, like the full shade of it. What would you go for? If you got to choose, the gas obeyed Leo for some reason.
Well, it wouldn't be the only one, but I'd probably I'd probably say, I don't know. Either my two choices are either blue or green.
Yeah.
Blue because then you'd still be able to look at the sky.
Yeah. But
And sort of.
and also blue planes use it. They have like blue seats and carpets and everything because it's meant to sort of calm you down. The colour, like having it surrounding you and you seeing it, calms you down for some reason. So that would sort of deal with the global shock.
That is very true.
Although that's very short term. In the long term, I still think green will be better because you can get some good sort of bluish shades out of green. But we'd also still be able to see plant life and everything, which still makes up pretty much all of the world, despite, people saying it's all covered in concrete. Because it's not, is it?
And also, especially where we live, literally everything is green. Like, you probably, if you didn't pay attention
Britain.
hard enough and you were... Well, yeah, Britain.
Things are usually green everywhere, aren't they? Other than, other places.
Well, let's not listen.
Yeah, but so would we get sort of angry letters in from people who live in deserts, telling us what have you done to our bloody sand?
Well, yeah, but I think that is the point actually. Green is quite good because you get to see quite a bit, but actually orange could be a contender.
It's true, because America's an empty desert full of the occasional gas station and McDonald's, so they'd be happy.
And then you'd be able to see sunsets still.
Oh, yeah.
And like sunrises and stuff.
And many people would die too, because like colourblind people who can't sort of differentiate easily, they just sort of see like pure one colour, wouldn't they? If everything was one shade of orange, or green, or anything.
Wait, so is the hypothetical that all the colour in the world goes grey except for orange, or is it that everything turns to orange?
Everything turns to a shade of orange.
Oh, I misunderstood.
Did I not make that?
Changes its like.
Did I not
No,
make
that
clear?
changes
it's
its
all.
like.
So you can have very dark orange, sort of like, I don't know, brown. But then they sort of get the question of what has the most variety? Because I suppose out of red, you can go from black to maroon to red to pink to.
I suppose if you count
white.
pink as red, then.
Well, it's a shade of red, isn't it? It's just light red.
Red does have quite a bit of variety, but then so does orange, really.
You'd want something where, as you go along, as it gets weaker and stronger, it changes into very sort of distinct colours rather than where it's blue, where it's you know them all as a shade of blue. It'd be good to have it sort of some differentiation.
Yeah, I suppose what you would want is if you were walking along the street, you'd still be able to sort of see that the shades were far enough apart from each other that it would still look like different colours. Because if you're just seeing the same thing over and over again, it would get boring.
That's true. And if it was, Rubik's cubes would be hell.
God.
It's not really the main issue, but
I suppose if you enjoy Rubik's cubes and you
got to think of the Rubik's cube, people.
You could always change it so that the Rubik's Cube was like different shades, because if you could take a really bright pink and then a really, really dark purple, they're really far apart.
They'd probably just do it with patterns though, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I suppose actually.
But there's always...
Oh, that's what Among Us did. Among Us, when they had the wire fixing task.
Stop. You end up...
What do you mean?
Saying everything's bloody sus.
Oh.
It just gives me a certain pain inside. But there's the sort of theory that if something were to be taken away, like blind people have every other sense that they have sort of heightened, don't they?
Well, sometimes. I don't think that it's like that all the time.
All the time, that's how it works. if one
that
sense
how-
is if one sense is taken away, then all the other ones will increase. That's why we can't read Braille, but their blind people's touch will get much better. And that's not because the brain's going, oh, we're blind, better boost the other ones. It's more just sort of use them a lot more and depend on them. So I don't know what I'm talking about actually, but it definitely happens. So if we could only see one
You'd
colour,
have to ask someone who was blind. I don't know how that works. I have definitely heard that is a thing
Yeah.
somewhere.
but there's sort of the theory, if everyone only saw one colour and different shades of it, would we get a lot better at differentiating between shades? And from then, could we use much more close together shades and still tell the difference? And then essentially get back to normal?
I think maybe. I hadn't thought of that, I must admit.
No, I'm taking it seriously. We're going straight in.
I hadn't thought of that. I reckon that could be true. Because if you look, actually, there's videos on the internet where it's like, check if you're colourblind, and they're all quite terrible, but it gets to the end where it's like, first of all, showing two completely different colours, and then gradually it gets to it so that it's like almost identical shades.
Yeah.
And the theory is that you're supposed to sort of, people who are colourblind, they can't differentiate between the shades earlier along the list, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. There's also for hearing, some people can't hear past certain frequencies, and as you get older, the frequency you can hear sort of shortens. So younger people can hear very, very high frequencies, and older people can't so much. It doesn't affect like listening to songs and stuff, but like very, very high frequencies.
Yeah.
It wouldn't affect day-to-day life, but as old people's ears sort of deteriorate and rot and become all old, they can't hear as high, and I think it's low as well, but I might be wrong there, but I definitely know it's high. And I know it because these they used to, I think it might be illegal now, but outside shops and places where teenagers would loiter and be public menaces, they used to put these things called mosquitoes, which were these small machines that you can mount on a building that would emit a very high frequency, which would be very annoying for young people, but old people wouldn't be able to hear it. So it would sort of drive away young people, to supposedly make our streets safer, but I don't know what anyone's got against people in black hoodies on bikes. But it supposedly to drive young people away, to make the streets safer for adults and older people.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I think it might be illegal
I'm just
now.
sort of amazed. I'm just sort of amazed that was the thing. That is...
It's my wide knowledge, Leo. It's my wide knowledge.
It's very wide.
But it is illegal. They're always making things. If you could make one thing illegal, what would it be? Anything.
One thing.
Yeah, one thing. I mean, would you go for sort of making humanity better, like making something bad illegal, or would you try and cause chaos, like making driving illegal, or something really inconvenient like use of a fork?
Well, it's on the one hand, I don't want to make it too sort of political. But
that's it. So you can make voting for one party, the one that you don't like. But then that'd probably be a bit not very good.
Well, I don't know whether we can say that.
I don't know about that. Cut the bit out. No.
I think I would make. I think I'd make standing on one foot illegal, and here's my reasoning. Okay.
What reasoning could you possibly have for that?
I've got reasoning.
All right.
So, you know how when you're walking,
yeah,
you tend to sort of lift your lift your feet up and like step,
Ah.
and for a short amount of time.
I didn't think about that at all. Yeah, you're right.
For a short amount of time, you're only stood on one leg,
Yeah.
and I think it would make the world a much more entertaining place if people had to walk whilst keeping both feet on the ground, because you just see people kind of shuffling.
And there's also, like, runners. The Olympics would become very interesting.
Exactly.
Sort of
It would just
seeing
make
the nations shuffle.
it would. It would just make it everything a bit more entertaining, in my opinion.
I mean, it would. I don't know. That's evil. That is. I thought it'd be really sort of like just not. Wouldn't affect anyone, because I don't remember the last time I stood on one leg. But
No, you
no,
see.
you're right. Walking. You'd sort of. You'd force the world to shuffle.
Exactly.
I don't know what I'd do, but I'd definitely do something to something political to make it so that you can't vote for so and so, or if it didn't have to be you have to make something illegal. If it could be, you can make something the law, and make it everyone has to vote for X party, the Demopublicans.
Yeah.
And nobody can vote for the Democrats.
Yeah.
I don't want to,
Yeah.
But then once you've got to the top, and once you're the sort of dictator, I suppose, of the country, how would you put it to use? You just put everyone to farming? This is starting to sound an awful lot like a certain. What would you do? I'm not going to go into it. What would you do?
What if the law came in that you can't vote for the
No. If you were the dictator of a country, doesn't matter which one. What would you do? Saying you had no morals, but by this point,
saying I had no
I think
morals.
we already know.
Yeah. Well.
Anything?
I think what I would do is I would divide the populace up into sort of like sections. So
okay, this is oddly
so
thought through.
everyone would be guaranteed sort of like some shelter, food and water, and basic medical care, right? And then because they've got their basic needs taken care of, no one needs to sort of choose jobs that pay well, and there isn't sort of like disparity between jobs that have more people and stuff.
But how are you gonna? Who's gonna provide them with food and healthcare and all that?
Well, I'll tell you.
Do you just have to force them to? All right, I'll let you go on with your plan.
So there's a section of society which is all about farming, massive sort of industrial scale farms, the most efficient that have ever been seen. And then section of society is working on those fields, and then they are feeding the rest of the populace, and there are sort of two other sections of society. There's sort of like the general resource gatherers, and they could be miners or maybe sort of like people who make like goods and like just general sort of getting good resources, anything that you can sell, because then you become a trading nation. You sell everything off from the general resource gatherers, all of the produce off to other nations in trade.
Would any other nations buy from you, given you sort of violate human rights? Although I suppose we still do trade with China.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I sort of figured that like I was beyond any rational kind of things, given it's
as long as we've
hypothetical.
got X party in charge, we'll always be doing trade with unethical nations.
Yeah.
It's those gosh darn party that you don't support. Insert.
Yeah.
Sorry,
It's
carry
those.
on with
It's
the plan.
those.
Those demo publicans.
It's those goddamn conserve labours and those goddamn labourtives.
Hate them all. Carry on.
So then they would be gathering things to trade, and then that would bring loads of money into the country, and then that would be used to guaranteeing sort of the way of life of the country. And then the third group would be the group that would sort of keep everyone in line.
So, police.
Well,
Police, basically.
So they would, and they wouldn't necessarily be sort of like, I don't know, they wouldn't necessarily be like very heavily armed necessarily. They could just be sort of people who report back on any sort of like revolutionary ideas and stuff. Those would be the three sectors of society, and then because the economy is completely circular, the farmers get food to feed the sort of big the war machine, the society, and then the resource gatherers get things that we can trade, and then the police keep everyone in line. Because that's circular.
And sort of one thing I'd add. I mean, this is all very well thought out, and I wouldn't wish to intervene because you seem to have it all. You seem to have it all thought out. But just one thing. You need to have some sort of nationwide social media where everyone sort of has to post like good things, so there's competition between people. So instead of focusing on why they're being put to work and doing all this stuff by you, the evil dictator, they're instead focusing on how to be better than their peers. This is starting to sound just like regular capitalist life, but would you have something like that?
That could be good, and I tell you what could also be good. You have a system where the amount of work that you do, the amount that you contribute to the state, gains you points.
Points?
Social points that go up on like how there's those apps which track like credit score and stuff.
It's not quite. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And then you could have like
like a value points.
Yeah, and then you could have like competitions. You could have like competitions with people like, oh, you bet 50 of these points, and then like to have like a competition and like it all sort of like entertainment and trying to best your peers and stuff.
Yeah.
And almost like gamify their like free time, so they're not focused on why they're being put to work.
Very interesting. This is. You haven't just thought of this on the spot, have you? Have been. I mean, I'd be impressed if you said you made that all up on the spot. But I'd be.
That was completely made up. I swear.
So you're telling me you're not reading off a big board full of strings and newspaper articles and stuff that you've been planning for years and years?
Well, listen, I wouldn't say it's a board as much as it is my entire bedroom, but let's move on.
One thing about social media is, of course, these days, I mean, going off what I just said, people only do post the good parts, don't they? And sort of, you see all these pictures of friend groups, and then people with no friends get very jealous because they've got friends, and all of that. I always thought what would be good to sort of regulate it would be an app, a social media app, where you're only allowed to post bad stuff, like sort of terrible things that have happened to you, so that everyone can see, oh, that terrible thing happened, well, wait till you see this, well, that happened, well, X died, really, well, Y died, and, that sort of thing.
I see the sentiment.
Instead of it being it's a very sort of British thing, instead of finding, who has the best life, who has the worst.
That's just like when you go to a social gathering at Britain, it's just sort of who has the worst stuff going on.
It's in the morning is what it is. Oh, I only got 4 hours of sleep. 4 hours, I got 2 hours, I got, the competition as to who's fucking up most. But I mean, all joking aside, you know, like terrible things like someone's died, it could be good to have a new platform in social media where, I mean, we get influencers on, but they do like sort of unedited, like not posing like pictures of themselves. So you can see sort of like normal, sort of natural, general humans, so that people aren't comparing themselves to Barbie dolls.
It's not very ethical, this following idea that I'm about to tell you, and it does violate people's privacy somewhat.
I mean, I think mine was really nice, but you know, what's yours?
You could have it where people have like influencers in order to be, once you get past like a certain number of followers, let's say like 200,000 followers on any social media.
That's not very much these days. There's people on like millions.
That is true. There's like a random girl from my Spanish class who sits behind me who has a brand deal with Samsung or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one? Actually, no, don't. No,
well,
no.
no.
Can't be bothered to edit this. But like,
but the
so what would
the
happen
idea
once it got
is,
past a certain number?
So after you've got past a certain number of followers, you have to consent to having 1 hour each day where you attach a camera to yourself, like a GoPro, and then it gets turned on and like for that hour, and you can't turn it off, and then turned off at the end of the hour. And you don't know when that hour is. So that people can properly see, people can properly see how you are. Obviously,
it's this, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
well, that's really dodgy
otherwise. Unless they wanted to have their like account deleted or something.
But what if they were sort of like going out? They wouldn't be able to do anything. They wouldn't be able to sort of go over, you know, get a letter from the bank. They wouldn't be able to read it or anything because it'd be a full view of their following. It's not a great idea.
Well, I never said it was pretty. Sometimes you have to make the tough choices when you're an evil dictator.
So are you going to have going back to your society, are you going to have like influence, like big people? And would the big people be the people who contribute the most? The ones with the highest value numbers?
Yeah. And then
so then you
they
have
would
people
start...
who want to be like the big people, but it's impossible because you've given them the points and given them some backstory to make it seem like they did it themselves. And the people can do it themselves too. Right.
So it would be kind of like the lottery is the sort of kind of example that we're going for.
No. You do it in secret, so that everyone would think that they've built it up themselves. You do it after a while. That this one person had built it up themselves, and you get all your newspapers to sort of report on them, and there'd be this big person. There'd be many big people for different sort of people to follow, and like role models, and you can pay them in more points or anything, you know, anything they want, in order to sort of promote the whole thing that they should work in order to get big like they are.
And you could also do it like where it's like, depending on the caliber of famous influencer that you were, you could have it so it's like you get certain point modifiers. So past 500,000 points, it was a doubled modifier, and then 1 million points, it was 3 times, and then you could like. Then eventually people would see that it had gotten massive, but they wouldn't question it because you'd given the modifier. So no one would question that like extra 100,000 points you put in at the beginning.
Yeah. It'd be really interesting. Who would you choose? Would you go for people, or just? Would you go for people with the real personalities, or would it all just be an act? You'd tell them to be, you get like, let's say you got 5 people. You tell one of them to be sort of like music-ish. You tell one of them to be sort of theatre-ish. You'd have one that's just a general sort of influencer. Look at this, it's some gunk I found on the internet that I can put on my eyes and look pretty. And then you have one that, you'd have all sorts of different people to follow. Like, did you see what such and such did? Oh my god, yeah, I want to get this.
You could have like
sell
you
your
could
own
have it
things.
where they have like rivalries and like
I just
relationships
had a
and
brilliant idea.
whole story arcs. You could have like a writer's
So you get a
room and, like,
writing
writing
team.
it down.
This just sounds like Love Island. I tell you what you could do though. If you're gonna like this, the whole way you buy things is with your points. So that you've got the whole, they want to save up and get big, but also they want sort of a new car or something, and stuff like that, and luxury like that. So they have to take their points down. So people are constantly getting more, but then taking it off to get stuff. And you introduce bills and stuff that they've got to get. So you've got to work a certain amount. The problem is it is just sort of currency now, isn't it?
Well, it would have become a problem actually, because if you have currency circulating among people, then that means that individual people can gain power.
Yes.
Like, in absence of the government, but actually,
whereas if it's all regulated by you on your app, on your phone, that all your influencers will promote.
You can fix that by having like every single thing that anyone ever gets provided by the government, like all the shops and everything.
Yeah, but in practice, some things provided by government is not a bad thing, a bit of internationalisation.
Well, let's not. Well,
but well, no, or not.
We've
or
descended
not.
We've descended back into politics again.
Yeah, I don't know how it happens.
It always constantly. I'll tell you what, though.
Yeah.
Going back to when we were talking about Kanzuk, and you mentioned Australia.
Oh God. Yes.
I have quite a few family members in Australia.
All right. Got anywhere we can stay?
Yeah, actually.
Really?
Yeah, seriously. There's
Oh.
There's
Well, anyway,
there's,
don't dox them, but yeah.
Well, I won't. But there's this one. There's a couple. They live all over. Australia.
Presumably on the coast.
They do, but that's what I'm saying. There's one who.
Because there's barely anything in the middle, isn't it?
There's one set of family who live on one coast, and then there's another set of family who live on the opposite coast.
Yeah.
And it made me think that like Australia crosses 2 time zones, as you probably know.
Yeah.
And like there's like individual. It's absolutely huge, and they have to have like there's like a small like relay station in the middle of the desert, because all the Wi-Fi and electricity can't go, like all the internet and everything can't get across the desert without this relay station, because it's so massive.
Yeah.
And it made me think, like, we in Britain, we just have like in some of these smaller countries, we literally have no idea what it would be like to like be in a country where you can drive for like weeks and still be within that country.
Britain's small. Here you drive for a few hours and you're 3 countries across. Whereas in Australia. Yeah, no, it is
drive
weird.
for like 3 days and you still haven't like even scratched the surface.
I don't think it's that big. Maybe. No, you cover Australia in less than 3 days, can't you? Could you?
Yeah, no.
Right, keep talking, and I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna go on Google Maps and find out.
It depends if you take a plane, because if you take a plane, you can just go through the night, with a few stops off. But that's the thing. There's almost no infrastructure in the center of the desert. So even if you went straight across, you could make it in the time. The fact that there's like hardly any infrastructure in the center would really rack up the journey time.
Yeah. So I've gone I've selected 2 locations on Google Maps. I've gone for the southernmost point, but still on the island itself, and the northernmost point. And there's no data available for anything across.
Exactly.
There's plenty of roads, and there's plenty of civilizations along it, but it's all on the coast. It's fantastic on the coast, but in the middle you die.
I'll tell you what, if you want to have a bit of existential fear,
Yes, I do. Yes.
if you want to have a bit of dread, go onto Street View and just click on one of the... There should be like a road that goes from north to south, right through the centre.
Yeah, there is.
And then go on Street View onto there and just look around.
Right. Well, I don't think that's the best thing to do in a podcast.
Well, no, but just look.
I'll give you an audio. Okay, I've gone to a random bit. Oh wow. Okay, hold on.
If you're listening at home, you can do this along with us. It's very, very scary.
I'm just gonna have to show it on the screen. So I mean, it's for anyone just listening. This isn't going to be very good, but I'll try and describe it as best I can. So it's this big, massive, flat, open plain with there's plenty of life actually. Lots, like a few bushes and green, but other than that, it's just sort of vast, open, orange desert. That is incredible. I don't know why they don't use it for more. Because think of the potential with that. Like what you could do with it.
Problem is though, it's so hard hard to even get anything done, because even if you can build stuff there, how are you going to get it there? How are you going to house the people who are building it?
They look like pretty solid roads to me. But yeah.
To be fair, they do look like pretty good roads.
How
are you
going to get there? I'd sort of work inwards.
But if you're listening at home, I'd encourage you to have a look, because it reminds me. I'll tell you what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
It reminds me of it gives you the same feeling if you sort of get a picture of or if you even get like a 360 image of on the edge of Earth's atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
And then you sort of turn around, as it were, metaphorically, obviously, because, well, it's an image, but you like sort of turn around,
yeah.
And then you look behind Earth, and
I don't
you just
actually
look
know
out
what
into
you're
the
talking about.
emptiness. Well, just listen, go with me on this, okay?
I mean, when
it gives me the same feeling as like looking out into like a big void type thing.
Well, I don't really want to go off-world with this and go into the fact that we are alone.
Yeah.
It is a shame. Maybe
tell you
one
what.
day we'll find some other planet.
I'll tell you what. When I was a kid, I used to properly be obsessed with space.
I think
I've got.
Yeah, they do that deliberately in schools so they can get more brains thinking on it.
I've got that they're just trying to give us all existential crises.
Yeah, well, welcome to Britain. Go on.
Well, they've got. I had this book. This massive sort of chunky book.
Yeah.
That I would literally read over and over. It was about loads of stuff to do with science and stuff, because I used to be a nerd.
Yeah, I know. I had many of those as well.
But I would only ever read the space chapter, nothing else. I've never to this day read anything else in that book.
Maybe that's why we get such bad grades. I did the same.
Literally, just space is so cool. It's so sick.
I mean, I'd like to go one day. Bit of a day trip, But
day trip to the moon.
I mean, I don't think that's particularly in our time.
No, I don't know. I think going to space maybe for civilians is within our time, but I don't think maybe going for day trips to other planets is quite
We're running out
quite
of
within
time,
our
though.
grasp.
I mean, they were saying stuff like that in the year 2000s, and here we are 20 years on. 20 years into this century. Almost a quarter of the way through.
That is weird.
Time goes so fast. I was born, like, years ago. Like, years and years ago. Many years ago.
Like, literally many
And
years ago.
there's
Like,
people born in 2016 who are 5 now. They're 5 years old. But 2016 was yesterday.
It just was. I can remember we were talking about, not to get political again, but we were talking about Brexit in our assembly, and I was like I was just a little guy, just in assembly, not understanding any of it, and I still don't. But,
No, me and a couple of my friends went around the school campaigning for one particular side, which I won't say. But we were saying for people to ask their parents to vote for
insert party that you support.
insert the one that you wanted here. I believe whatever you believe. Yeah. I mean,
But we say it
didn't
as like
understand
a joke.
it, but like, yeah.
You say it as like a joke that we were born, oh yes, many years ago, back in my day, but it literally is getting to the point now where it was ages ago.
Yeah. I mean, I was born when Tony was still Prime Minister.
Yeah, Tony.
Just a moment of reflection.
Moment of reflection on
Because he was very, very. Insert what you think of him here. God, we're absolutely spineless, aren't we?
Well, yeah, but come on. It's supposed to be a nice, just chilled out.
Exactly.
Chat.
No.
No.
The demo publicans have been definitely better though.
Yeah, definitely the demo
We'd hold an
publicans,
election
and also
between the demo publicans and the Democrats.
Also the Labour Conservatives as well. Very good.
Labour Conservatives, amazing, inspirational. But Caber doing a dreadful job.
Yeah.
Sorry, where were we? I mean,
I've no idea.
I just want to go
Went
back
off
to
on
your.
a bit of a tangent.
I want to go back to your nation, because we've gone off a bit of a tangent. I want to go back to your dictatorship nation. What are you gonna? No, don't worry. It's not a in-depth question. It's just, what are you gonna call it? Yeah, it needs a name.
Ooh.
I don't know what land mass it's gonna be on, but ignore that. What are you gonna call it?
That's the thing. A lot of nations were started based on sort of things that were in the landscape. I feel like I'd be doing it a disservice.
No, don't worry about any of that. It's going to be completely. It'll be like on an island, so it can be closed off from the rest of the world, and all that. Or if it's not on an island, very, very good, strong borders, so people don't see the outside world.
Yeah.
Tell them that your nation is all there is. But what are you going to call it? I mean, it's got to start with the Democratic People's Republic.
Yeah.
Because for a nation like that, it's just got to.
It's got to.
But it's got to, and it's got to include you in some way, but not like sort of Leo's nation, because then it will constantly remind everyone that they're from Leo's nation, and this guy controls us all. But it should be subtly, so you can sort of mark your name on history. So sort of Leoania, or like the Vatican, the Leocan, or the Leocant.
How about? No, I definitely can. I definitely can. With the sheer amount of control that we hold over the nation, I think we definitely can.
Which one?
The nation.
Oh right, that one. What are you going to call it?
The
Democratic People's Republic of Leoland.
Leodana.
Leodana?
Don't know why Dana.
What's the Dana?
Isn't there a planet in Star Wars which ends with Dana?
I've got absolutely no idea. Literally
Right.
no idea. In this, I just want to go back to the influencers, because you said, and I completely ignored it, which was a shame because it had potential, that you said that there'd be sort of like scriptwriters for drama that happens between them. Would it be like sort of the people know it's scripted and it's like on TV? Would it be like in the news, like as if it's an
No,
actual
it would
thing?
be in the it would be in the news.
right.
It would be in the news. There's not enough. There's one thing that I think that society is lacking is there's not enough sort of like blurring the lines between fact and fiction. Because if you think how cool it would have been, it would be to sort of have a reality TV show that actually took place sort of like connected with reality and like on the street.
So like
if
a
you
reality TV show.
No, but like not like isolated. So like events could take place in the street. Like if you were in the right place at the right time, you had a chance to sort of accidentally walk into a plot line.
Yeah.
I think that would be so
Problem is, it
cool.
just sort of remind everyone how boring life is. It'd just be people buying bus tickets and stuff. But I'm sure there's interesting stuff. You know, I'm sure there's interesting stuff. It's yet to happen to us, but you know, sure interesting stuff is out there. What was? I mean, not in the nation, just in general capitalist world. If you could create some sort of reality TV show and put it on TV on all channels, what would you do? Like, would you do your idea, or would you go all out, sort of no morals? You're allowed to sort of experiment on people. Not that that's what I'd go for, but you know, that sort of thing.
What I would go for is I'd go for sort of a reality TV show that starts really like normal reality TV show, like, oh, these like 10 people are gonna try and live in a house for a month together, and there's gonna be drama and stuff, and it starts like
right.
that, and then eventually progresses into being like really, really dark, like someone murders one of the others, and it's like a whole murder mystery.
So it's like scripted then.
Yeah.
Because you
but
can't really
it's
guarantee those results from just sort of putting some strangers in a box.
Well, the Russian sleep experiment would disagree with you.
The what?
The what?
What was it about?
Sorry, redacted.
Oh, we're not allowed to talk about it.
We're not allowed to talk about
It's
it.
meant to be chill, this, isn't it?
I'll tell you after.
Alright. Well, speaking of after, we are rounding up to an hour at the minute, so we'd just like to finish. To finish after the creation of, what do you call it, Leodana.
Leodana, yeah.
The Democratic People's Republic of Leodana. When it's all put together, when it's all perfect, are you actually going to live there, or are you going to hire someone to run it for you and then leave? Because I just want to finish it off. Like once you've got it, once you've built it all up, are you going to continue? Are you going to work on your great nation and see how society can function, or are you going to just sort of get lost to Ibiza or something?
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
Run it
about
remotely
sort
from a
of-
laptop or something.
What I was gonna say earlier is that because the entire society is circular, in that everything contributes to another thing to keep the nation running,
Yeah.
you can very easily detach yourself from that. Like, there's not going to be any scandals about like, oh, you're taking the taxpayers' money to pay for a mansion.
But
Because you can just build like a private complex.
The people could think that you're still there, like, and you could record messages and stuff. But then, what would happen if people sort of suddenly realised that there is actually no one out there, and there is no government? Because you can't risk that information getting out there.
It's an interesting thing to have it so that we had them so controlled, and everything was just so like perpetuating everything else that it could literally run itself.
It could, but if people found out that it was like there was no government, there is no one out there, the people run themselves, then what would they do? I suppose we'll find out next time we do one of these, but for now I just want to say goodbye, Leo.
Goodbye, James.